Well, that escalated quickly. The ducks are running for cover. On this episode, we are talking all about how to expect the unexpected and how to prepare for the unplanned. Now, we've had a really interesting time the last couple of weeks. We've had some really major mechanical issues, and we've also had some weather-related issues that we've had to deal with, including some massive winds. And that has created a headache of costs. Like, cool. Check this out. So right now I'm standing in the midst of our flybridge cover, which has got this lovely big tear all the way down it. Now this cover was on its last legs anyway, and so it was bound to happen at some point, but that point has arrived, and now we've got to deal with this. If we leave this like it is, it's just going to cause a heap of damage that will escalate. So we really have to address it quite quickly and at least put in a temporary solution. So what I'm figuring is the wind has come up underneath and then wham, it's gone. Not fun. We'll talk about how not fun it is financially in a few minutes. But in the meantime, we have to make this weather tight, shore it up, and provide some sort of weather protection for everything that's underneath here that would really suck if it got soaking wet and damaged. Time to fix things. So part one of this process is the fantastic cost of repairs. So right here is $100, probably more, $120. So nice big tarpaulin and some ropes. Let the fun begin. Right, stage one complete. Just getting this top cover off. And then we'll put this nice big tarpaulin on underneath. This is cool. It's reflectorized. So all of these things, whilst we do have heaps of spare lines on the boat, every time we have a situation like this, I buy extra. So we certainly didn't have a tarpaulin big enough for this, and by purchasing these extra lines, once we're done with all of this, we will have extra lines on the boat. almost got it done, almost running out of light. Fingers crossed, any water that comes in here is just going to run down away from all of the couches and the storage underneath and off the boat. What a rigmarole. Good morning. The fog is burnt off and it is a gorgeous day. Now, this video I want to talk specifically about the reality of being prepared for the unexpected. And being an old boat owner, this comes with the territory, and this is also potentially one of the reasons why a lot of people that own old boats don't own them for very long, or own them for a few years and then move on to other things, because the reality is it is expensive, and the unexpected is always around the next corner. And there's an adage that owning a boat is really just fixing a boat in beautiful locations, and that is so true. Especially when you get into boats that are this old. So this boat was built in the late 1980s, and whilst it hasn't done very many engine hours, it's still been sitting in the water, in the seawater and in a marine environment since the late 1980s. So that takes its toll, and things just end up wearing and then breaking. So, you know, every time we go out, something breaks basically, and then needs to be replaced. And that constant cycle of replacing things inevitably ends up escalating, where you start off fixing one little thing and then you end up sort of having to repair or recondition the entire system. So we've had this happen a couple of times now with the black tank. You know, that was not a small fix, and it took a long time to get to the bottom of that. And that was a relatively new system. There's a couple of long videos on our channel. I encourage you to go back and look at them and share my pain. They were brutal. But with the pure mechanical components like the engines and the genset, you know, those things have been in the boat since the late 1980s. Who knows how long the engines and genset were in a warehouse before they got installed onto the boat. So potentially, you know, they're coming up to 40 years old each now. And whilst they haven't done very many engine hours, I think when the previous owner bought the boat off the previous owner from that in 2016, there was only 900 hours on each of the engines. Now it's up to 3,000 hours. So even that is still really low. And the genset engine has done less than 500 hours, I think it was. So, and a lot of those hours would be hours that we've put on the clock. So both the engines aren't like heavily used, but they've been sitting in that sort of environment for a long time. The experience of the storm just recently and the cover ripping, which is how we started this video, we knew that replacing the cover was one of the jobs to do, and we were budgeting to be doing that maybe next summer or in 6 months' time. So now that has ramped that process up and escalated replacing the cover to the top of the list. I found the receipt in the receipt pile for the last time the cover got made, and it wasn't as bad as I thought, having gone through these receipts a while ago. I remembered seeing a receipt for when the flybridge cover was replaced last time. So I've refound that receipt, and now I kind of know a little bit of what to expect in terms of how much it's going to cost. But regardless, it's one of those things that we can't not replace.
what I've done is put a tarpaulin underneath the flybridge cover for now, which is a very temporary solution until we can get a new one made. But as me and Alex were doing it last night, Alex said, "Dad, is this seriously how we're going to be doing this from now on? Because it's such a kerfuffle. It's such a rigmarole strapping a tarpaulin down to the flybridge. It's certainly something that I don't want to do again." So factoring all of that in is something that you really have to bear in mind. And it's when I told Hayley that I was going to be making this video, she said, "God, please don't make it negative." And it's not negative at all. It's just realistic. Owning a boat is expensive, and a lot of people say, it's just an open hole in the ocean in which you dump thousands of dollars. And that's true. It costs a lot to keep a boat on the ocean and have it be efficient and have it be safe and have it give you back everything that you want from the experience. However, that's true about everything in life. If we had a holiday home in the Sounds, it would be the same thing. It would be constantly needing to be repaired. There would be constant gardens that needed maintaining. There would be damage from storms. All of those things would be part of the equation. There would be rates, there would be insurance. On the boat there's insurance, and we have to pay the marina for berthage fees, which is fine. That's just part of the equation and part of the maths that we have to factor in each and every month. So it's not at all scary. It's just choices, and we all have choices to make. We can all choose to do what gives us pleasure in life. And when we first embarked on this, our greatest concern was creating memories for our family that will give the children a set of experiences that they will remember for the rest of their lives, and it will also teach them a set of skills that they ordinarily wouldn't get anywhere else. The boys have such a sense of independence, especially out in nature, out in the ocean, out in the forest, and that's only come from them doing the hours and spending the time in summer, in winter, on the beach, making fires, entertaining themselves, stomping up rivers. All of this stuff happens purely from experience. And for me, the experience of having this boat and living like this and spending so much time here is the challenges of maintaining a boat. Like, I'm mechanically minded, but I'm not a mechanic. And so the learning curve has been really steep, but it's a challenge that is massively rewarding, because at the end of the day, in the early days, I was paying people to come and do the work on the boat and peering over their shoulder, which was slowing them down, but I was also learning the systems as time went by. One of the absolute keys to this, if you're not a diesel mechanic, if you tinker and you're happy to learn as you go, access to service records, access to previous receipts for work done on the boat, and access to parts manuals and service manuals and instructions. These are all things that are imperative. I've learned a lot from the comments section on our videos, like so much, and I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to do that. And I'd be lost without it, to be honest. But I'm also massively thankful for this huge pile of receipts. And this is from the previous owner and our own work that we've had done. But it means that I can go back in time and I can find the receipt for the work that was done 8 years ago. And I can make an assessment as to what they did and how they did it based on what the receipt says. Things like the Caterpillar engine 3208 industrial engine parts book. So I found this online. There is kind of a basic rudimentary set of instructions in this box for the engines, which has got things like fuel graphs in it, which is fantastic. But it's not enough information. And whilst I haven't really had to tackle the main engines yet, my experience with tackling work on the genset has been greatly enhanced by the fact that for the genset I've got a similar thing. I've got a parts manual for the genset, which means I can get in there and really see what I'm dealing with, and when it comes to replacing bits, because as soon as you take things apart, half of them break, and there's no point putting back parts that are at the end of their life when you've taken something to bits that much. You might as well put new stuff in if you can. So the experience with the genset has been invaluable. Having the parts manual has meant that as I'm taking things to pieces in order to diagnose what's gone wrong, or what needs to be improved, or what needs to be reconditioned, I can see right down to the smallest screw what I'm doing and what I'm dealing. It helps me comprehend how the system works, but it's also vital in that as I'm taking these things apart, inevitably things break because they've been in a salty marine environment for 40 years, so there's been corrosion and all the rest of it. So I've learnt the hard way as I'm disassembling bits and pieces. Inevitably I end up shearing off screws or the screw heads, which leads to bigger problems because I've then got to get the screws out or the bolts out, which is not the end of the world. But putting it all back together, new gaskets, new hoses, all of these things are not purpose built, but they're specific to the engine. So whilst you can sort of cobble together some things to get you home, at the end, having the right part is an essential part of the repair process. There's no point just making do in the long term, because it's going to impact how the engines perform. So having the parts manual, or making sure you have the parts manual, means that you can then go and order exactly the right part. Now at some point, I'm guessing it's going to get harder and harder to get parts for these engines. So I'm kind of building up a bit of a storeroom, warehouse of extra parts. So as I'm ordering parts, I'm making an assessment. I'm probably going to need to do this again in the future, so I'll buy extra gaskets. I'll buy extra of the things that I think I will need for the next time I have to encounter this, so that I've just got a library or a stock holding of spare parts, which means I've got to also find somewhere to put all of those parts. Now, I was using the engine room for that, and a couple of the videos around the genset and diagnosing what happened with the smoke and the fire and all the rest of it. Some of the comments were, you got to get all of that stuff out of your engine room, it's way too cluttered. So I'm going to have to find somewhere else to hold all of these spare parts, because it's easy just to fill up the engine room with boxes and boxes of gear. It's a big space, but it's also a big space because it needs to have airflow through it. So I fully comprehend how all of that works, and just filling it up with boxes and boxes of spare parts is not the way to go. So we'll have to sacrifice some storage somewhere else and put the parts there. However, storing things outside, the toolbox that came with the boat was stored outside in a cabinet, and that has so much corrosion on it, and it's probably only 8 years old, and that's you know, a real strong indication of how harsh it is on stuff out here. To sum up, I really encourage you, if you're thinking about doing this, whether you're a young family looking for adventure, whether you're like me in your middle age and you're transitioning through different stages of the children's lives, or whether you're older and you're a grandparent. You know, there's so many different opportunities within this whole realm that I never knew existed. I've had friends with boats, but I hadn't really ever spent time out on the water like this, and it's so liberating. It's such an amazing feeling, and you can see why people become obsessed with it. It's a feeling like no other, being out on the sea, being on anchor somewhere secluded. The freedom is astounding, and the prices that you have to pay for that is maintenance. So buying a new boat or buying an old boat, you still will have to do the maintenance. The difference will be repairing the stuff that breaks, and that's not daunting at all. If you love fixing things, if you love tinkering, if you love getting to the bottom of problem solving, you will love having a boat. So please, do your research. Go out there and find some things. And by do your research, like when we came into this, the reason why this whole channel is called Not Naughty is we had no idea what we were doing. And this is our very first boat. So when we were looking at boats, I didn't even know the difference between a planing sport fishing boat and a trawler. We just looked at a bunch of boats, and it was just by happenstance that we ended up finding the Oriental Lady and falling in love with the whole setup in terms of bedrooms and the aft cabin or master stateroom being full beam, and this cockpit out the back. Oh my God. Yeah, so it's really important that either you speak to people that have been doing this for a little while, you find some YouTube channels that will help guide you through this whole thing, or you meet people online and ask them questions. But, you know, had we bought a different boat, like a sport fishing boat with a planing hull that went 20, 25 knots, it would be such a different experience just because of the cost of fuel, and we wouldn't have really factored that in. You know, this trawler has got enormous fuel tanks. It's heavy, but it goes slow, and the keel and the hull shape, the semi-displacement nature of things, and it leans more towards displacement than the semi side of things, means it's really stable and it's got amazing sea keeping, but it's slow, and it just chugs along, and you know, 25 litres an hour, just chugging along, per engine. So you know, 50 litres an hour is doable. A 25 knot sport fishing boat smashing its way out fast, going through 200 litres an hour, that would get tired really quickly, especially if you're doing lots of travelling. So you know, these things are massive considerations to have. Do your research. It's a great lifestyle, honestly. I can't say it enough that, you know, every time we leave the harbour and we get out past the channel and the Marlborough Sounds opens up to us, we have this conversation about where do we want to go. We can go anywhere. And where we choose to go gives us all of these different experiences. You know, we can choose to go to the place that gives us the most amazing sunset. We can choose to go to the place which gives us the most incredible bushwalks and seclusion and privacy. We can choose to go to the place where the water is so clear that you can see the bottom 10, 15 meters deep, which is unusual in the Sounds. We can choose to go to the place where there's a resort right there, so we can go to dinner and enjoy the resort life. You know, all of these choices, and that's the most impactful and powerful thing that it's not missing in our society, but it's such a hard thing to attain now, is having the freedom of choice. So as I talk about choices, here's a choice. It would be amazing if you liked this video and left a comment. It would be also amazing if you subscribe to our channel. And all of that helps our channel grow, which is something that initially we didn't start out as having it be a focus, but now we are. We're really enjoying the community that is forming, and we really enjoy the opportunity to engage with heaps of people. We've met so many cool people, like in person, locally, but also online. And as the channel gets bigger, I'm imagining that connection with people will also get bigger. So please, like and subscribe. It really does mean a huge amount to all of us. Now back to the conversation around preparedness for the unknown. This is one of the most exciting bits to the whole equation. You don't know what you don't know, and you also don't know what to expect. That's exciting. That creates an opportunity to learn. That creates an opportunity to experience things completely outside of your comfort zone. And that also creates an opportunity to share with your kids the ability to be flexible and nimble and reactive. What it also is the fluidity of it is a little scary for some people in terms of financials. And for us, it's no different. The genset issues that we've had over the last couple of weeks have stopped us in our tracks. Like, we literally can't go out into the Sounds without a functioning genset. The ability to have our batteries topped up and to have a power station on board is fundamentally crucial to us being able to stay off-grid in an anchorage or on a mooring for more than a night. Until we can fix this issue, the boat is here. It's at the marina, and we're not going out and enjoying wintertime in the Sounds, and that's fine. It just means that we end up doing different things and exploring the area around here, which isn't a bad thing. And it also means that whilst the gen set or the components to the gen set get repaired, I'm moving on to fixing other things that need addressing, which have been tired and niggly. So the whole opportunity of the gen set breaking down like it has created a window where it's just boat jobs, just getting on top of boat jobs. And since the tools are all out and sort of spread around the boat, then it's a perfect opportunity just to start tackling and ticking off all of the jobs that have been on the list for a while. So if you like watching boat job tinkering videos, you're in for a treat, because that's what's going to be happening for the next little while as we make our way through the winter time, just fixing stuff. And it was bound to happen. You know, we've owned the boat since late 2021, so we're now middle of 2025. We've used it heavily, and that's probably been an unusual state of affairs for this boat. It probably wasn't used that heavily in its whole life, with only sort of 900 hours on it when the previous owner bought it, and he put a fair few hours on it, but now we've put a lot of hours on it. And so things need to be replaced, things need to be fixed, things need to be maintained. And that's exciting. I love it. And it also means I get to buy heaps more tools. Yay! So, hope to see you again soon. Hope you come back and check out more of our videos. I would love to have massive amounts of input into the comment section as I go forward, because man, I need it. I don't know what the hell I'm doing half of the time. I do have these wonderful books and wonderful resources, and we do have the wonderful internet courtesy of Starlink, so I can gain access to a whole lot more knowledge when needed, but gosh, it's quite tricky sort of learning as you go, especially when you're in the midst of doing something and you're trying to watch a phone screen and a tutorial of someone doing stuff. But you know, it's fantastic. So thanks very much for watching. Hope to see you again. Cheers.
Thank you very much for watching and sharing in a little glimpse into our life. We really appreciate being able to share these videos with our friends and family and the wider community online that we are now meeting. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment, as all of this really helps our channel grow. We also have a Patreon account now too, if you would like to engage with us more and get access to a deeper layer of content, as well as some of the art we have been creating along the way. See you in the next video, and we hope you find a way to be a little bit naughty each and every day. Take care.